Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Ready Wednesday morning. Hope everybody's having a good one out there. We are. We're going to talk this morning briefly. This has come up a lot, and it happened last October. And it's they changed the third-party financing addendum, and FHA and VA came with what they call a mandatory clause. And here's the deal: a buyer will make a bid on a house, and they come with FHA, and their lender doesn't tell them up front that there's a mandatory clause. So they fill out this partial appraisal waiver or the appraisal waiver, which I always thought VA and FHA had to appraise for the value, but they're making some exceptions. The buyer can pay over, but they send out this mandatory clause that basically voids the partial waiver and voids the waiver and all that. So the smart lenders, we've had a couple lately that up front say they won't even order the appraisal. Well, we've done some checking. Talked to two lenders this morning, and a couple of our agents called me. I went on Trek and looked at the information that they gave us, and we talked to two lenders this morning, and both lenders said this: the smart lender doesn't order or doesn't even bring out this VA mandatory clause or FHA mandatory clause that would void the appraisal waiver until after the appraisal's done. Then they deal with it, because in a large amount of the cases it's making value, so it's not an issue at all. And so I just say, by the way, we need this signed. And we have some that say, well, I won't order the appraisal until you do that. Well, those lenders need to go away because it's not required by FHA or VA. It can be, it has to be done before it goes to final underwriting. So yeah, the FHA mandatory clause and the VA mandatory clause have to be signed before, okay, it goes to final underwriting. So those are things you need to remember if you've got a lender. And our lenders locally, the reason I hear a little bit about it is, but every time I've heard one, it's been a lender outside the area that's trying to, get all this stuff up front. But here's the deal: if you've got a buyer that's FHA or VA, this is going to come out, and it has to be done. And you're filling out a partial waiver. Be prepared. This has to be done. Now, the lenders that we would recommend will say, let's wait till the appraisal's done and then we'll address that then. And so the situation can be negotiated then a deal. If you put it up front, my recommendation is never to have a seller sign this before an appraisal's done. Never. Because what it does, it basically says that if it doesn't appraise for this value, you're going to refund the earnest money even though it has a partial waiver. So it voids a partial waiver, it voids a full waiver, it voids, in some cases, the third-party finance addendum. So FHA's come out, when we start doing all these partial waivers and waivers, FHA's come out and they've got a correction on it. So these are things we need to address. So remember, the FHA VA mandatory clause is something that does come out. I thought all lenders were not doing it. Well, I found today all lenders that do FHA and VA have to do it. But what's going on with that? Hey, Linda, how are you? Yeah, it's a mandatory clause. And what you've got there is all lenders do have to do it, but some lenders are no emotions and no sellers and no buyers. They're waiting to see if it's even going to be an issue, and a lot of times it's not. And a lot of times it is, say, hey, we've got a mandatory clause that has to be signed. We need to negotiate this deal. And when you get an FHA or VA, in most cases, you're not talking about 50 or 60,000 over. You're talking about 5 or 6. We had one yesterday. We actually had the buyer on, and the other agent said, my seller's not going to sign it. Well, the seller buyer knew each other, and they were secure in the fact that was going to get done. So that got worked out, and I was very proud that it got worked out. But I've advised two sellers who called me on the behest of our agents, and I've told them, no, you don't sign that, okay, until the appraisal's done. And they're like, well, they can't go further forward. So what they're doing is they're bringing in a piece of paperwork that should have been disclosed up front with their offer. So if they're going FHA or VA, I'm going to tell you right now, this clause comes into play. It should be presented with the offer by their lender if they're going to do that. But if they bring it up after, just say, we'll wait for the appraisal before we sign that. And if they say, well, we have to have it before we do the appraisal, that's a lie. FHA and VA, and I have confirmed with two lenders, I have confirmed with Trek, okay, I have confirmed all of this, all right? These things do not have to be done before the appraisal, okay? So here's the situation. If the buyer's lender wants it, it's obviously a lender that we're not familiar with. It's a lender that we don't want to work with, okay? Had a lender, want to talk to you about a lender yesterday. Typical example, Jen Shelton had a customer supposed to close next Monday. Lender just ordered the appraisal. Not one of our lenders. The lender's like, oh yeah, we'll get it done. Well, they're not getting it done. And now the buyer, which was temperamental to start with, has basically ghosted everybody and blah, blah, blah. And, and they're going to lose their earnest money because the lender they chose can't get it done. So guys, it's more important now to work with lenders that are honest with you, tell you up front, instead of one that says, oh yeah, we got it. And then all of a sudden everybody's ghosted. So we got a seller's agent, everybody's upset, a buyer who thinks they're entitled to their earnest money back, okay, who thought our agent was responsible. I'm so glad we didn't refer a lender to these people. But they had a lender who ordered an appraisal 1 week before closing. Couldn't get it done. No way in hell they're ever going to get it done. So remember that. But when it comes to the amendatory clause, FHA and VA, it is amendatory, Linda's right. FHA and VA know it's coming up front. And so what you've got, a good lender will wait till the appraisal comes in, and then it's usually not an issue. Even if they miss by a little, it's usually not an issue. But here's my deal. If an appraisal misses by a lot, we are bound by the ethics rules not to list things so overpriced. We're supposed to not overprice property. I saw one last week that missed by $50,000, and it was a $250,000 house. Well, the seller and the seller's agents jumping up and down screaming that blah, 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 blah. Well, come to find out, she never pulled any comps when she listed it, and the seller wanted it listed for that. We pulled comps in the neighborhood. The highest comp we could find was $60,000 below. Okay, so, 190 instead of 250. So what you're doing out there, our job is to do things right. You should never miss an appraisal by very far if we're doing our jobs right. And we know appraisers are tough. We know there's under the picture of God in the dictionary, there's a picture of an appraiser. But and I'm just kidding, but we wanted this amendatory clause. We want to make sure that on FHA and VA, they're in there. We don't hear much about them because they're handled correctly by a lot of lenders, which means get the appraisal, see if there's an issue, deal with the issue. When you've got one up front, before this thing closes, before you've accepted the contract, and all of a sudden a week later, here comes this amendatory clause from the buyer's lender. That should have been disclosed up front, and that is deceptive, especially if you're in a highest and best situation and you're FHA, and you got a lot of realtors staying away from FHA and VA now that are listing homes because of this. It's not anything to stay away from, but it's something to be aware of, and especially when you get into those. And especially now when you've got some conventionals that are 3 and 5% down, might be a better loan product for them anyway. But if you're going to have to deal with this amendatory clause, know that FHA and VA brings those in, and the smart lender will wait till the appraisal's done. Probably won't be an issue. If it hits the number or hits close enough, they're just going to say, hey, by the way, this has to be handled. It's no big deal. But it does void, guys. It voids all, of the waivers. And so just be aware of that. FHA, when they started coming with waivers last October, they brought this to the market to it's an added protection for the buyer, and the seller thinks they've got this waiver. Well, it isn't that way. Okay, you've got this amendatory clause that does have to be addressed. And if you've got someone making an offer on an FHA or VA, you need to be mindful if they come in and say, yeah, we'll get $15,000 over. Is that an offer you want to advise your seller on that they should accept? I would think not, because the amendatory clause is going to kick in and really hurt you there. If you price the property right, and you should have, you're going to be within a couple of $1,000s of the appraised value. And so when they offer 15 over, they're going to end up getting the thing for what they should, and your seller's going to feel like they've been cheated. They had 3 or 4 offers, and this person knew up front. And we do have lenders coaching that. Yeah, you offer whatever you want. This will protect you. Okay? They know up front it has to be done. So if you're presenting FHA or VA, you want to make sure you got a lender. You want to make sure you've got a lender that knows what they're doing. We have some that are not, and it's clear out there. Guys, I want you to be safe out in the rain. I want you to have we had great training last week. I was without a voice both days, but we muddled through. I want to thank everybody that came in and presented and talked to you guys. We got a lot of new talent out there, and I'll tell you, we're growing, and it's amazing what's going on. Capper's Lunch coming up on the 17th. There'll be 22 of us there. We've ordered a few trinkets for you guys to sit down. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna eat. We're gonna have a feast. Then we got right after that, we have the Christmas party coming up. I'm telling you, the holidays are gonna be great. Thanksgiving, we're gonna shut early about lunch on that Tuesday. What we're gonna do on that Tuesday is we're gonna have just we're going to have a potluck here at the office, and feed and have a good time. That Tuesday, and then that Wednesday, we're just going to kind of sneak out of here and leave you guys alone at noon that day. So Tuesday will be a full day for us, and we're going to eat here, and we'll bring a turkey in. You guys come have some fun, and we want to make sure everybody has a good Thanksgiving, and then we're out. We'll wind it up and finish the end of the year strong. Have a great Christmas party. We are just doing fantastic. Have some amazing new talent out there. We got a couple of rookies that are writing offers right up front, and I couldn't be happier. So I want to congratulate all of those out there. They're just amazing what's going on. And Carly and Jazz are trying to stay on top of it. I'm looking up here. We got all kinds of Ob-City stuff going on. We got all kinds of stuff going on. I want to thank Coben, Landmark, Wendy came in. Jordan came in, was our mortgage, came in for the training last week. And what we did, and I think it's successful, we're going to do it again. What we did is we didn't really have a structured training. We had a Q&A. So we kind of teed them up with some questions, and new agents could ask them questions. And, some of these new agents asked some really good questions. They thought they might have been silly, but they stumped us a little bit. They were smart. So we're excited to have all of that. But today I just wanted to bring you the heads up on the amendatory clause for FHA and VA. It's a sneaky little way on a highest and best for a lender to get in, and then all of a sudden you get this piece of paper. And a good lender will wait after the appraisal comes in. So if you've got a VA or FHA and they're coming in thousands and thousands and thousands over, you might as well just advise your seller that that's not realistic, that it's going to come back down because that clause is going to kick in. It has to be signed before it can go to final underwriting. If you have a lender that we're not familiar with that says we can't order the appraisal till we get this signed, they're a liar, and you're welcome to send them to me, and I'll be more than happy to tell them. And so we can point that out to them. But guys, I want you to have a blessed day. We'll be back with more. And you get going, man. It's a rainy day, but it's fixing to get sunshiny. We're going to have some cool weather. It's the fall in Texas, so it's going to be fun. Have a good one.